Hello everyone, my name is Apollonia and welcome to my channel. I read some books in January, so let's talk about them. So here I have my reading journal. It is a little Beauty and the Beast VHS tape. My mom got it for me at the Disney store. Not the Disney store. Either a Disney store or Hot Topic, like many years ago. Anyways, I will be using this as a reference throughout the video. So let's open up to my January reading log. So this month, I did finish 2 of the books that I read in February 4th to be exact, but I read like 98% of them in January, so I'm counting them for January. I know it probably would have been better to count in February, like beef up February, shorter month, all that, but I just wanted to be honest. I read 98% of them in January. Also, sorry about the background. Yeah, my closet fell apart months ago, and my landlords did nothing about it, so I just have to keep those shelves there. Anyways, let's get started. So I started out the month on the first day, getting my reading challenge in already. I did do the January Pages challenge for Storygraph. I did complete it. I did not win the prize. Didn't win it last year either. I'm still going to try next year. But I started with You and I Are Polar Opposites Volume 4. This is romance manga. Don't really rate manga because I feel like one individual volume isn't enough to really rate it. But like whole series wise, I'd probably give it a 3. I've watched quite a few anime romances, but I haven't read a lot of manga. But this is cute. The couple is cute. I honestly can't remember their names. I'm kind of blanking. This was the last volume I read that month, and it was on the 1st, so it's been a while. Then second, and I have a little placeholder for this. This is the next volume I need to read. This is volume 6. But I read volumes 4 and 5 of The Summer Hikaru Died. I am not entirely sure how to describe this. I would say horror? Not quite. Like, it's not like Junji Ito horror, but it's very interesting, and I went into it kind of blind. My sibling tried to explain this series to me a few times. They watched the anime and then read all of the manga that's been published. This is the last edition out in English at the moment. And they tried to explain it to me multiple times, and I was always like, what is this about? Like, I could not comprehend it. And reading it, I'm like so glad that I went into it blind, because literally my jaw was dropping every volume. There's Crank. She's looking for somewhere to sneak around. There's not a lot of good hiding spots in my room at the moment. It's spooky. It's dark, twisted. It's very interesting. Okay. If you are sensitive to death, though, I would be mindful of that. But I think it's better to go into this knowing nothing. Obviously, I read volume 4 and 5, so there's not much I can say without doing major spoilers. But I love this series so far. All right. Then on January 7th, I started my journey into reading chapter books, I suppose. I don't want to say real books because reading manga is still reading, but I finally read a classic book, I guess you could say. And the book that I read first was The Wife Stalker by Liv Constantine. I will be honest, I've been working a lot, and I was just finding any book that I own that was on Kindle Limited. And I came across this one. I just got this recently from a thrift store back in like November, and I thought it sounded really interesting. I gave this 2 stars. It took me a while to finish this, considering how short this book is. Let's see. In my notes, I read it from the 7th to the 12th. And that probably doesn't sound like too long, but there were some days I didn't want to pick this up. But I was like, I want to move on to the next one, so I'm going to pick it up. So basically, this story follows 2 women. It's dual perspective. And very interestingly, this book switches the way it's written per perspective. So we follow Joanna, and hers is written in first person. And she is who knows the main guy, Leo, when the story starts. They are raising children together. And then we meet Piper. She moves to town. Hers is written in third person. That was kind of weird to me. But I found out that this is written by 2 people. This is a pen name for 2 sisters, I believe. So I was like, okay, maybe they each write a chapter, or like maybe they each write a different perspective. But still, it was kind of weird going back and forth. I'll be honest, I thought Joanna was kind of annoying. And then there was a twist. And then, it's a thriller. And the little blurb on the cover says, an addictive new thriller with a twist you will never see coming. And yeah, I didn't see the twist coming. Okay, I'll be honest. It got me. But then they did a second twist, and I did not care for that one. So I ended up just giving it 2 stars. I thought it was written weird. I didn't like the switching between first and third person. I feel like I'm kind of in the minority with this, but I prefer third person. I know a lot of people on here like first person. I've heard it in videos where people are like, I don't like reading third person. And that's kind of how I feel about first person. I'll try it out, but like, I love third person. Okay, next I picked up Strung, and this is by Para Jacobson. I gave this 3 stars. I'm sorry, I gave this 3.5 stars. I had to flip my page. Well, this is kind of like a apocalypse story. Yeah, that's the right word. It's an apocalypse story. Very interesting one. This is the first in a trilogy. And so there are 2 more books. They're on Kindle Limited. I don't own them. My aunt just gave me this book when I went to Texas. She said she read it and enjoyed it and gave it to me. I don't know if I'll continue the trilogy. They are on Kindle Limited, so I could read them for free. But I have a lot of other books I'm prioritizing at the moment. This is an apocalypse story where the police are the people you can't trust. And that goes against society, what you're taught. Like, you see something weird, go to the police. Honestly, very smart for the aliens or whatever this is, because it's not confirmed in the book. I will say that my biggest beef with this book is that it is by a Danish author, but it's set in Pennsylvania. This author, he's from Denmark, lives in Spain. I looked it up because I am on the Reading Europe Storygraph Challenge. It's not by Storygraph, it's by some random person, but it's to read a book from every country in Europe, and I was going to count this for Denmark, but it's set in Pennsylvania. And I'm like, I am not going to count that because that kind of defeats the purpose of it being Reading Europe if it's set in Pennsylvania. But the book did keep my attention fairly well. It was decently well written. I had no major issues with the plot or anything. It was good. It was a 3.5, you know? And I read that from the 12th to the 15th. So very quick, easy read. Third book I read, and I'll put a picture up here because I don't know where I put my copy. I think I already put it in the donate box. I read One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, and I gave this 2.5 stars. This is an older book to beloved sapphic romance, and I tried really hard to love this book. I don't know why. Like, parts of it just weren't really catching my attention. And I told my friend that this came out in 2021. I feel like if I would have read it in 2021 when I wanted to, I would have been obsessed with this book. I would have loved it so much. But I think I just waited too long to read it, and I just wasn't really interested in it anymore. But this book is about a girl. I already forgot her name, and I didn't write it down in this. August. I remembered, it came to me. This is about August. She is living in modern times. She moves to New York City for like a fresh start, transfers to a school in New York City, the whole thing. And she meets this girl on the subway that she is like in love with. First sight, instant love, like most beautiful, hot, attractive woman she's ever seen. And this woman is always on the subway, has no other place to be. And you find out that she is stuck there. She's from the 1970s and she's stuck there. And this is partially on me because I thought this was like a dual perspective thing. Like, I went into this thinking that they were both going to be like flip-flopping between times and that the subway was some magical like time machine. That was on me. Okay, when I realized that wasn't what was going on, I was like, okay, I'm still going to give this a chance. The idea is still really interesting that someone is stuck on the subway. I don't know. Parts of it just fell flat for me. And one part that I noted was August said at one point that she was not going to talk about 2020 because it was too much to talk about. But if Jane had been stuck on the subway, she would have seen, like, she forgets as time passes, but she would have seen what was going on. And then at the end of the book, they said that it was December 2020. So it was still 2020. And so I was like, you don't have to talk about it if it's actively going on. Like, you'll see that people are in masks and stuff. So I just thought it was kind of like a weird thing to throw in there because they could have just acted like it happened before COVID. And then in the author's note, she said that she had been working on the book for like, and then in the author's note, Casey said that they'd been working on the book for like 5 years or so. I can't remember exactly. So before COVID, but I don't know. It still just was kind of like a weird thing to throw into me. Now for the last two. Next, I read Twilight. I gave this 3 stars. This is my second read, and I read this from the 25th to February 4th. I read this book for the first time when I was 21 in 2021, and I wanted to experience that magic that everybody does. I gave it 2 stars at that time. I honestly think I was being a little harsh. Like, me, 21, was edgy, wanted to hate Twilight, whatever. And then I read New Moon, and I was like, girl, why'd you continue the series if you obviously didn't like the book that much? But I wanted to give it another shot. Past month in January, I went to go see a burlesque show. It was Twilight After Dark, I think, and it was so funny. I ate that up. I was obsessed with it. I got tickets as a surprise for my sibling for their birthday because they were a Twilight tween, and we both had like the greatest time. Immediately after that, I put in a hold for Twilight for Libby because I was like, I want to finish the series. I never ever finished it. I want to commit to it. Currently reading New Moon, but my hold is up in 3 days, so don't know if we'll finish it. My main beef with Twilight is that Bella is kind of annoying. I'll be honest, like, I think she's kind of annoying. She's always going like, make me a vampire, make me a vampire. And I'm like, girl, why can't you see that you got things to live for? Like, your parents love you. You got a life. You're only 17. But I did write in my notebook that Edward had more personality than I remembered. Because I think when I was reading it the first time, I was thinking so much of the movie. Because I've seen all the movies with my sibling and my mom. And I was just thinking of movie Edward. And in the book, he's so much funnier. He has so much more personality. I wish I could say the same for Bella. I wish she had more personality. I feel like everyone knows what Twilight is at this point. There's not really much else to say. So we will move on to the last book. The last book that I read was The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. This is one that my mom picked out, and she bought it in 2021. My mom also passed in 2021, so she never got to read it. And so I've just held on to it because it was really popular on BookTube when she bought it. And I was like, one day I'll read it. And I gave this 3 stars. It was okay. I read this one from January 23rd to February 4th. I switched the audiobook about 40 pages in. That helped me get through this a lot faster. I will say I like the audiobook more. The audiobook is just narrated by one guy, though. I thought it would have been so cool if it was a cast of characters. And also on Libby, I don't know why, but the photo and the title says The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, but this is the 7.5. I don't know if like the US edition got a different name or what happened, because I'm pretty sure that book is British, I believe. But this book is about a guy. He wakes up as someone else, and he's tasked to solve this girl's murder, and he is given 8 hosts, I believe. 8 hosts, and he lives the same day out as those 8 people to try to find clues. And if he can solve the murder, he will be freed. The idea of this story is so cool, but lots of parts of it dragged for me. And after watching some reviews, I learned that it is a common belief, including myself, that this book should have been like 100 pages shorter. I also personally didn't like the ending because of a relationship that the main character forms with another character. I'm not going to say anything because it's like this big moment in the book, but that part really got me and I did not appreciate it at all. I'm using my phone to film, so I'm going to pull up my story graph on here. This is my Books Palma, and I'm going to pull up my January stats. I believe my star rating was pretty low for the average. This does not include the 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle or Twilight because I did finish those in February. I gave 3 reviews and my average rating was 2.67. Not great. I'm also doing this giant year-long book bingo, and I meant to say where I put the books on the bingo board, but I completely forgot. So I'm just going to show the bingo right here. Then I'm going to show what it looks like currently at the end of January or after February 4th when I finish my last January books. This is only for my owned TBR. I found this on Pinterest. I will link it down below, the Pinterest link. I don't know where it originally comes from. I can't remember off the top of my head if there's a URL or a handle on it, but I will have the Pinterest information down below, and I will put on the screen what books I use for what prompts, since I did not remember to write it down. That concludes my January wrap up. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.